So we got June in the program here.
Wait a minute, I don't start nothing yet. I gotta sit down first by my love bug. I hope the chair is behind me.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
There. You are. All right, you were just.
Are we in the frame?
Are we running now?
Yeah. Everybody smile.
Yeah.
You're good.
So,
Okay.
June Ann Lexwell comes into the arena.
Okay, do you want me to
Because
say
of
my...
your sister.
Yeah, my sister Bev and Dell, they said, you should settle down.
Yeah,
Hey,
settle down, dear.
You've been
They said that right when you met her?
No, before.
Okay, okay, so
And
you
then-
gotta-
and,
okay.
And for Beverly to initiate me as far as the information about this lady in Kenya. And I didn't know about that, but I wrote her a letter because I couldn't
Yeah,
get her
but
on the phone.
can I tell why you couldn't get me on the phone? Because I was working full-time nights at the Kenyan Sunset Home, and I didn't want to be woke up in the daytime, and so I didn't have my phone listed.
Sure.
But you had just a cell phone, you didn't have a regular phone. And so
And
it's pretty hard to go on land
Hard to
phone.
get a
and
hold
try
of her.
to-
Yeah.
tougher than heck.
So you
Well,
wrote
I
a
had
letter.
to work. I had to work, so I thought, I'll write the lady a letter.
And then, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I usually took my break, I had this letter in my purse, and I thought, well, I better look at the mail. And I looked at the mail, and here was a letter from Wanamingo. I thought, holy man,
And
who's
my-
writing to me from Wanamingo?
On my own special.
Oh, and his
special
stationery was gorgeous. It was lined
Notebook
lined
Yeah.
paper, and it was in pencil.
They mean more than these fancy things.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
If you're gonna write, use a notebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I did.
anyway, it was a very nice letter.
And so
And-
10 days later, she read the letter. She hadn't read
Well,
it for a long time.
it was a couple days later, and then my aides that were working with me, they couldn't figure out why I had this big goofy smile on my face at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had gotten a letter from
Somebody told you a dirty joke.
Harris
No.
Wallaker, and I knew Harris Wallaker because I had gone to his home because my kids had played ball with my sons, and we went to each other's graduations, and so we knew each other
Long time.
long time since the early '60s.
So that happened, and so here we are.
Well, wait a minute. We're not quite done here.
Oh, not quite done.
No.
What happened next?
Well then, you came and visited me with you were in your mother's car, and you come knocking at the door at my apartment, and I opened the door, and I looked up. Oh, you're tall. I had never been that close to him before, see, so I really didn't know how tall he was.
Yeah.
And of course, from then on, we haven't been separated forever and ever. And that was a while back. That was in the August 15th, 19, when was it?
I would think maybe 2001.
Yes, 2001.
That's when I was
Because,
there.
yeah, that's what it was. And then by the time we got married, it was in March 30th of 2002.
Yep.
Oh.
And the thing about getting married at that time is right before Easter.
And we had all the flowers
So all
already
the
bought.
flowers-
They were all in the front.
flowers are out there in front of us.
So we
Perfect.
saved money.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
And it went towards the
Good.
meal that we had for everybody that was at our wedding, which was a very small, beautiful wedding. We had family.
What was your first date?
My first
Oh.
date, we went to the Hubble House.
And
Good choice.
And went to the Hubble House and we sat there, looked at each other and said.
Do you remember what you had?
I had fish. What did you
She
have?
probably, I probably had spaghetti, maybe.
No,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have spaghetti. He had a steak, most likely.
Yeah.
I remember the dress I wore. I wish I could still fit in it. It's many sizes smaller than I am right now. But I guess, we grow and,
We grew up.
we grew up and grew old together.
Yep.
So this will be 19 years
Yeah.
in March.
Actually, it was it was 19.
Your anniversary will be.
Yes, our wedding anniversary, but we've been
Yeah.
together for 19 years,
Yeah.
being August 15th
Yeah.
was our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's what happened. And then she kept on coming over to Wanamingo.
Oh, yes,
And
I did.
I said, well, you know, the boys come back from school and they always like the water in Wanamingo. So is that why you're coming?
No, I came to see what kind of monkey shines you were getting into. I drove by the old house because he was always taking care
I
of
was over at
Yeah.
mother and dad's
and
place.
he was outside by the window, the basement window, doing something. And I rolled my window down and I said, "What are you doing over there?" I was, and he said,
He
"Are
didn't know
you
you were
checking
coming.
up on
No,
me?"
He didn't know you were coming.
No, he
No,
didn't know.
just
I was
wondered.
just
Oh.
cruising.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, she'd come driving by and then she'd drive away again. I could go to work. Okay.
No, I didn't.
And you were at the
I didn't-
nursing home
I didn't.
working.
I didn't stalk him. Yeah, I was at the nursing home.
Wor-
Oh,
yeah.
and then when we did get married, I worked. Well, every other weekend, I had to be on. Okay, I worked 10 nights, and then had 4 off. But anyway, every other weekend, and so he had retired already from the VA. I said, you know, it would be awfully nice if you could come and work with me. You could have one side of the building and I could have the other. Then I wouldn't have all these people.
I really
reach out."
appreciated that.
and because he kind of liked me.
Yeah.
No, I said I'd make breakfast for you if you wanted.
No, you
Come
said
over.
I'll drive you to work and
Yeah,
make
and-
breakfast
and-
for you, but
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if I want to come
So I
to work.
did that. She said, you got to come and work with me. She
Oh,
said,
I didn't
"Can't
say gotta. I said, will you please?
Will you? No, I
Yeah,
said,
so we
"Well,
did. We worked together every other weekend, and then it got to be the end of the first year, and it was like October, November. And he says,
I said,
you
"This
know,
is it."
this year is it. At the first of the year, I quit, but I'll still drive you to work. Yeah.
Mhm. No,
No,
I'm
I
quitting
don't.
too. She
Yeah,
said.
I'm done too. So you know the best thing that happened, that was when we were 62. We were happy that we were able to retire at that time
Yeah.
at 62. And
So,
our first and our,
Next year it'll be 18 years since I retired.
That's weird.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't live that long.
I know it.
No.
We're,
Holy cow.
oh yeah, but we are tickling 80.
Now, how long after you got married did you start the house? Getting
Right, the
house
same
built?
year.
Same year.
Oh,
then.
tell the
Yeah.
story about that.
So up at the VA, before Christmas time, we'd have to put in our days or weeks or whatever our vacation time we wish to take. And
A year ahead.
Yeah, so that for that following year, coming year. And I had close to 30 days I got up there. And so I never taken more than maybe 4 or 5 in a row, or sometimes 2 or 3 and so forth. I did that every so often, you know, just to get away for a while. So this time I put in for 2 weeks in June, and that's when we decided to build a house, and that's when our house actually got started, because you came and Jerry was here and you're getting things lined up as far as everything zeroed in as far as for the guys coming in with their
Oh yeah.
earth
For the
moving
excavator,
equipment.
yeah.
Yeah. And so that was done, and I think that you were here at the same time. And then shortly after that, when they could go and start digging or whatever for the footing for the house, that's when we started, and then moved in. You're actually on the last day of July.
Of that same year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And meanwhile, he was living with me in my apartment.
I remember it.
Yeah.
That apartment there.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yep.
But we were married because
Yeah.
she talked to Burdell and says,
Oh,
okay,
I gotta
good.
tell that.
Okay.
Well, we were together until we got married, but on one of the times that Burdell and the 3 of us were going to Rochester, I remember exactly the same, right as we went towards Zambroda, we were talking about an older couple that had coincided without getting married. And so I was just curious. I said, what do you think, Mom, about living together without getting married? Oh, that's not right, she says. That's just not right. And looked at him. Did you hear what your mother said?
I was
It's
driving.
not right.
You
And
weren't
he
paying
just,
attention.
And he just,
Kept on driving.
so therefore, we know that,
Yeah.
that this is, and it was the right thing to do,
Yeah.
of course.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. Now, how long was Grandma here?
About 5
About,
years.
about 4.5 years, actually.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Best thing.
She's there, then here,
Yep.
and then Kenya.
Yep. And so the last
Is that how it went?
last month
Yeah.
of her life, she had moved to Kenyon.
Yep.
And then she got sick, and this was shortly after Easter that year. And that's when we took her to Faribault, because we got a call. We had her with us for Easter Sunday, and we picked her up and took her back over there. And on Easter, we were at you and Kelly's place on Easter Sunday for dinner. And she was feeling weak that day. And Kimmy and Jerry were going back to Faribault, and so they drove her home, back to Kenyon, up there at the Germanson place. And next day then, I got a call from the nurse there, and she said, your mother isn't doing real well. She doesn't seem right. It seems like things are not working right. I think she might have a UTI, which would be a urinary tract.
That's-
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it ended up when we got over to Faribault that mother's blood pressure was little or nothing, and her pulse was hardly anything. And so they started giving her some IV fluids and so forth. And I said, well, don't you have a cardiac doctor here? No, we don't. Oh, well, we can give her some medication, but we suggest either going up to Hennepin or to Abbott Northwest,
Or
or
Rochester.
or Rochester. And I said, well, we'll go to Rochester. And so we did. So Steve Nessett, your cousin Steve, came, and he works for the Ambulance North Memorial anyway, and so he rode with, and he held Grandma's hand on the whole way down. And then she got admitted there, and she spent 1 week there when she passed.
Yeah.
And she was given a
Pacemaker?
and then they went in and did a regular job on her, inserted it, because she had one hanging on the outside there when they first, just to get her going. And then she had the actual one put in. And then we had to get that discontinued, because that's another situation with ethics down there and so forth, and being at the, actually you'd say St. Mary's is pretty much was always noted for being a Catholic hospital, because started with the nuns and everything way back, you know.
Yeah.
And the lady who was her doctor was actually a Muslim woman.
Very nice doctor.
That was married
Wonderful.
to a Catholic, and the kids were going to Lourdes High School. But she was a practicing Muslim, but couldn't find a nicer lady, and she went through the whole channel of having this thing discontinued, because she had to get permission and so forth, being it had already been put in, so for mother to want to end her life. And so we didn't talk renter, we just explained things to mother one day after lunch down there, that if you go back to Kenya now, the word is that you'll probably be a bed patient, that being up will not be in your lifetime anymore. You'll be pretty much bedridden. I don't want to be, she said, I want to see Jesus. And so she said that every day when she woke up, that she thought she was going to be able to see Jesus, and she was awake again, and she couldn't believe this was going on. And so when we talked to her about this, about having this thing discontinued, and all the policies were taken care of, and we did it. And so that same day, then that evening is when she passed away. Sometime that morning or right after dinner, they came in with their machines and computer, and they disconnected, took the program away from keeping the thing going.
She saw everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody in the family,
All
basically.
all that week, you know, it was so special.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she was so cheerful. The doctors and the nurses, they would come in and they'd, be ready to be comforting her. But she said, they all said that she comforted them. And the pastor said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah. She'd reach up and touch his
yeah,
cheek and
yeah,
say, "You have such a beautiful smile," she'd tell him. And so,
she was such a wonderful person to live with. It was a privilege to have her here.
we were very
It was an
fortunate.
honor.
And it was my wife that called me up one day and she said to me, "We don't want your mother going to a nursing home. I think she should come across the street and live with us."
Well, because she
And
was,
so-
we were
that's what
bringing her
happened.
meals in the
Yeah.
evening. She always had one square meal, but she really wasn't well cared for. And when I looked at one picture, a recent picture I had taken of her, she had already sunken in and everything, and it looked like she's not thriving. We got to have her here with us so that she gets 3 meals a day
That was
and
great.
gets everything done.
Yeah, and then she'd sit there and she'd want to know if you had some more fish.
Yeah.
She was
Got
hungry.
some
She
more
was
fish.
hungry.
And
Can
so-
I have another piece?
And so, one day she was sitting at the island here on the chair, and I put my arm around her and then gave her a kiss on the cheek. She had the softest skin. It was just wonderful. And she looks at me and she says, "What was that for?" I said, "I love you, Mama." "Oh," she says. Like, whoa. That was, she was just really fun. We have lots of wonderful stories to tell about her too, because
Yeah, we really do. And even when Dad was living, and I would take them places, they'd like to go and eat fish. That was a big thing. Took them down to Sombrota. Took them down and they had fish fries down at the
Coffee
Coffee
mill?
mill.
Coffee
Coffee
mill,
mill, yeah.
that's right. And Dad was a little wobbly on his legs and it was time to go, and he'd get up and he got her coat, and he was wobbling, but he got her coat on for her. You know, he'd help her with that and so forth. And I got to see these things that my sisters never saw.
and I was able to have the privilege of caring for her, and I loved every minute of it. I really did. It was definitely an honor.
So,
Wonderful.
so that's the story of the Wallikers and what
It is. Yeah.
And,
It's a good story.
And I hope,
There's many more things.
yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, but this is a good outline, and
You think this came out okay?
I think
Well-
so, yeah.
Are we still on?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to just say that we feel extremely blessed that we have a family, extended family. There isn't one of you all the children and the grandchildren and the great grands. We have never been as blessed as I mean, we never thought they could be this good, and we're very appreciative because God reigns, and boy, He's wonderful.
Yes, amen. Yeah,
Okay.
Yep. It's all very special.
yeah.
And when you take time to think about it, it even sticks with you longer, because all of a sudden, you know, this has been happening and this continues to happen, and so it makes us very proud that we're at, you know.
Yeah.
And we plan on living here. We plan
Yeah.
on living here, and we plan on staying here until we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as we have help
As long as you can.
come in
Yeah.
and take care of us.
So this is the plan.
This is it.
Yeah. Well,
And,
this
and
is-
thank you for doing this. I'm glad you brought it,
Yeah.
brought this
Yeah.
available to us.
Yeah,
to
I feel
talk.
kind of humble about that, because I don't.
You mean you're-
I don't talk about myself. Well, I have to say this in front of the camera. Ta-da! When I was at Camp Pendleton Naval Hospital, I was put up for Sailor of the Month, and I got a write-up. I got a big write-up back there that tells how wonderful I was. Kind of funny, because it made me laugh too.
Well, that's good. I'm happy you brought that up. Do you still
Well-
have the
Well, I think she's got it.
paperwork or? Okay.
I've got I've got so much stuff.
Yeah.
I do, I think it is. I got the copy of it, and,
I think it's in
Yeah.
your file.
yeah. And so they said a lot of good things about me. I said, I did that. And even got a good conduct medal, so you know I was good.
Yeah.
Even,
Yeah.
even though I was in jail twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know, that's
Who's counting?
experience. that's an experience,
Yeah,
you know, then you know
yeah.
you don't wanna go back there again.
No, great.
It was an experience, you know, people look at the service and they look at going to college and this and that. Each one has a way of helping a person grow up. Maybe in a little faster way, maybe the service brings you there quicker.
Yeah,
What you have to do and how you have to be squared away and so forth, and you gotta impress other people all the time, and then you learn to,
live with other
live
people.
with, yep, yep. So, yeah, it was an experience, and I'm glad I had a chance to live it.
Very good.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Any last thoughts?
what do you have as a question?
I think when you have talked about your growing up in life and stuff like that, you talk a lot about those Navy years.
Yep.
That was very instrumental in your life. And
I was,
could you pinpoint why, because we all respect that a great deal, both of you, your time in service. But it's something that you hold very dear.
because it wasn't always easy. Things in life are not ever easy. If they find it easy, then something is not right, because it was a growing experience. It was a chance of showing that you could do this, you could pass this hurdle and continue on with a smile on your face. You could go out there in boot camp and somebody screws up in your company and everybody's on the ground doing 50 push-ups.
Because somebody else did something wrong.
Yep.
You learn real fast.
And then after you got done and you all stood up and they said, give me another 50. So we do 100 in about a minute and a half. And that was back when I was in shape.
So for you, is this accurate that you recognize this is going to be tough? I'm moving away. I got new challenges. I got new environment, new culture, and I did it.
That's right. Yes, as time went on, being away from home was not easy. It never is easy because it's never the same getting up and not seeing family, not seeing the family that you have. And you get to meet other people, but we're all in the same boat. In the same boat. you could
Literally.
say, yeah,
Literally, yeah.
And you find so many different kinds of people that you have to put up with, and they have to put up with you, and so forth. And going to sea was an experience that everybody was looking forward to, who were new people going aboard ship. And when we left dry dock and headed out to Puget Sound, going out into the Pacific, they called it a shakedown cruise. In other words, for 24 hours, we did figure eights with that big carrier out there, night and day. So if you know what a figure eight is, and just think about this big vessel out there, and then at night you'd be going this direction, then you'd kind of go this way. And you're hanging, and you're
Hanging on.
Your cot had pipes, lined with pipes, and then it was a canvas thing, and then of course you had your blanket and your pillow, because it got cool at night at sea. Anyway, but you'd be hanging on to those pipes, so you kind of went with the flow.
Yeah.
And then there's people who get sick, and then there's people who've been at sea many times. Bosun's mates, that's their life. They join the Navy, become a bosun, so they know everything about the ship. And they're hardly ever on shore. They're always on a ship. Well, they would get sick because, and then we'd run in, we're on the tail end of a hurricane one time. We're taking one right where the big anchor comes out of the ship, which you've seen that way up there. We're taking water through that, called that the forecastle, and their water was coming in there because the waves were that high. So it's about 100 feet.
Yeah.
And so, learn that.
Down,
you know.
and up and down.
And then the fear when you went to sea, and people would talk who'd been on the ship for a while about every so often over in the South China Sea and in that area, the ship would be making that cruise, and there'd be always somebody that would not come back.
Go off the ship.
Officers would be helped off the ship. So you can kind of think about what probably happened, but they weren't getting along with other people. And even officers were kind of helped. And so the fear of that, like, you want to be a good boy. Yep.
Well, even his quarters that he lived in, I said, well, how many deep were the bunks? And he said there were 3. And I said, where did you sleep on that, in that line of 3? And there's not that much difference between, you know, the top of the bunk and where you're actually, explain about that. That
Well,
to me would be.
if you sat down in the middle bunk and taking your shoes off or something, if you straighten up, you'd hit your head on the pipe right above you. You would always be kind of bent over. No, there wasn't. The guy on the bottom was right on the floor. You could say just maybe about that much. And
Yeah.
and so then
You were in the middle, weren't you?
yeah, well, else in the middle.
And then, of course, you know, people, they have different odors that they emit. And you just are stuck with them, right? You know, you have to learn to take care of that too.
You do.
Yeah.
Being
Yes.
recorded, girl.
Huh?
This is being recorded.
I know, well, it
Yeah,
was very
okay.
nice. You have to figure out what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, see, that's some of the things you have
Yes.
to learn.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's, well, just like going to college, you know, you learn different roommates, you learn
Yeah.
how to handle this situation and when you can get something done and all this stuff, because you always had to think about the other person,
Yeah.
and hopefully
That's what Jesus talks about. You have to love your neighbor, even if he is only 3 inches higher than you are in bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the experiences were great. There's experiences down at the elevator that I remember. I remember a guy by the name of Melly Grindal. Okay, Melly and his partner had trucking firm out here in Wanamingo. They would pick up cattle and so forth and take up to South St. Paul when I was in running. A lot of cattle shipped up there, and then they'd haul this and haul that. Well, there was a time that they were hauling sand. They got some real fine sand for somebody who was going to do some masonry work. They used this real fine stuff for laying brick and so forth in homes. And so the stuff would seep through anything. And so you'd be driving down the road, and if you stopped and didn't check your load once in a while, well, you'd be losing some. Well, they got over by Goodyear on the way back from Red Wing. They got over by Goodyear, and they stopped and they saw there was a stream of fine sand coming down onto the highway. Well, Melly says there's only one way to fix this, he says. And Bernie Satrin, his partner, he says, well, what do you mean, how are we gonna fix that? And he said, let's climb up on the load. And so they went up and urinated on the sand, and I wetted enough to stop the hole.
There's a way to fix it.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Are we off?
No.
Well, we're not off.
Oh.
I'm gonna.
So-
And then another time, I was down, I had a classmate who was working at the elevator when I started down. His name was Eugene Gullickson, and we're down at the mill, and here comes Melly. Melly worked part-time then. This is after his trucking days were done with, and he came to the elevator. He was a character. Anyway, he was giving us, goofing around with us a little bit, so we picked him up and we put him in a barrel head first. He didn't like that. He came
didn't
out
like
swinging.
that?
He came out swinging. All we could do was laugh at him because we pulled the string a little bit too tight. And but he got over it after a little bit, after we kind of handled him a little bit, and so he wouldn't hurt us.
Well, this is good. Thank you for doing this. And we'll continue on with June another time. So we'll
Oh
get
my,
your
you better
yeah,
really,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
and then we'll bring Dad into that one at a certain period.
Oh yeah,
We'll do that
I've
for
got-
that.
I've got a whole bunch of
Yeah.
hairy tales. My life was not normal. I mean, it wasn't a normal life.
I've noticed a lot of times you've been crawling on the floor.
No,
You
no, no.
should be laughing.
It just hasn't been, and that's okay too, because I had the Lord with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to revisit things, I think.
Oh, I believe in it
Yeah.
because, and I think the family should know where they
Yeah.
come from and from what stock they come from.
Yeah.
Oh, and one thing I should have told you, when I was growing up on the farm, we had an outhouse. I never told you about this, did I?
I don't know.
We'd go to the bathroom, you had to go
Sure.
outside
Mm-hmm.
and use Sears catalog paper to clean yourself if you're in the toilet and you're sitting on your little
That
wooden
was not
hole.
soft.
And then I always enjoyed it when Dad bought apples at Christmas time because it had nice soft covers on each apple, and so it was just like toilet paper now, nice and smooth.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And besides, it was cold out there.
Oh.
Then I got older, and then I went down to the barn and I used strainer pads for the.
See, all this, kids
Oh,
don't know
sure,
what,
yeah.
kids don't have
No.
a clue. We
Yeah.
have one foot in the old time, and we're in the new. I mean, it's
So-
just, that's the way it is.
I slept
Yeah.
upstairs. I slept upstairs at the farm, and in the wintertime, then Mother moved my bed out into the hallway so I could get some heat coming up the stairs from the wood burner down in the kitchen, and coal burner, whatever. And but even then, if the pants I was wearing, if I got wet out in the snow and so forth, when I got up in the morning, they were stiff. That's the heat I had up there.
And then you had your little doggy sleeping with you.
Yep, and then little Tippy was my little doggy. And long after I left the house and went on going to school and then into the service, she would go up the stairs, and Mother left her blanket. We had her own blanket that she laid on top of the bed, so she'd always lay on that. And she'd go up and sleep in my bed.
So she'd have his scent.
Yeah.
Yeah, she missed me.
Yeah. Dogs are wonderful.
So, Mother tells a little bit of a clippet about when he was gone, and he had sent his clothes, his normal clothes, home because he was in the service. Do you remember you sent a duffel bag home? And she said she went to the mailbox and she started to cry because here was this duffel bag, and she thought at that time that he had passed, and she was saying, I cried and I cried until I realized he's still alive. It's just his clothes. But we didn't have the communication that they have
Nobody
now.
was just
It was like when you talked on the telephone, there were 13 families on one line, and like out in the country, there were neighbors with Flex Foles. And I remember when I went to their home, they still had the old phone on the wall, that one with that you pick up. It's not like what you would remember. It's a wooden box about so big, and then it had a kind of a hook-up thing. Well, it was a party line, and it would ring like you had 2 rings and a short, or 3 shorts, or whatever. And you call from out over in California. By the time maybe half of the people on your party line lift up that phone and to listen what's going on.
Well, that's how they found out about news.
Yeah, and finally my ex-mother-in-law would say, "Everybody get off this phone. We only got a couple minutes here," because we had to pay for the call per minute.
I suppose.
See,
Yeah.
and she gets so mad, and it happened that's the way it was in those days. If you had that type of, and then you had all these telephone booths outside
Okay.
that you could call from,
Yeah.
but you paid for that
Mm.
with your.
So I was going to I was going to nursing school, and
Now my battery's almost going down.
Okay.
Just for you got about
Okay.
a minute, I think.
Well, that's all
okay,
right.
and
That's
anyway,
it.
Sorry.
my instructor at the nursery at Methodist Hospital, after every session with her during the day, taking care of people, babies, this and that, we have a meeting. Well, she used the bathroom and she lost her keys, and she couldn't. Keys for all narcotics, key for everything had gone down the toilet flushed it. And so this went on, and I remember during the end of the year, we're in there doing finals, and she was on the phone. I said, "Did you find your keys?" And she tried to kick me.
Oh, well, you two say goodbye here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.